welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mary, and for today's video we are going to be doing the musical theater book tag. I saw Kelsey from Bookishly Nerdy do this tag the other day, and I thought it sounded like such a fun idea, so I decided to do it as well. I believe the original tag came from Maddie from Book Browsing Blog, and I will have Maddie and Kelsey's channels both linked down below. The questions will also be in the description box. But the tag has prompts that are based on songs from popular musicals. So I was a choir kid in high school, and I always did the musicals at my school, and then I also was in a private theater company in high school, so this tag is like right up my alley. And it feels very niche to me, but it's like my niche, so I love it. Anyways, I guess I'm just gonna start with the prompts. The first prompt is Hamilton. I'm reading them on my laptop, so if I'm looking over there, that's what I'm doing. But it says, the first prompt is Satisfied from Hamilton. And the question is, what book had an unsatisfying ending or needs a sequel? And for this, I chose Normal People by Sally Rooney, which I read earlier this year, and I have a full review of the book and the TV show comparing the two, and I'll link that in the card if you're interested in watching that. But I'm not going to spoil the ending of it, obviously, because it's about not having a satisfying ending, but I want to know what happens at the end. And I think they're, like, toying with the idea of doing a sequel for the show for Hulu, but unclear to me if they're going to do that or not. I hope they do, but I also hope they don't. I don't know. It's one of those, how do you feel about it? Like, I feel iffy about whether or not I think that I need more to the story. Like, I want more about their lives, but also if it's not what I want, then I'm gonna be upset, if that makes sense. I'll leave it at that. I'm not trying to spoil anything. The second prompt is Everybody's Talking About Jamie, and it's the title track. And it says, what is a really hyped book you want to read, but only because of the hype? And so for me, it's the Heartstopper comics. A lot of YouTubers I follow are like obsessed with them. And I'm not really like a manga comic type person, but Heartstopper sounds really interesting. I don't even know what it's about. I think it's like a male romance. I could be wrong. And it's new adult, so it's like college age people, I think. From what I understand. If that's incorrect, obviously I haven't read any of them. But I'm considering buying a volume of it and seeing if I like it. I don't know. If you've read them, let me know down below if you liked them. But that's one. And then there's a couple books that I've read recently that I only read because of how hyped they were. So I read Crescent City because of the hype, and I ended up really, really loving this. This is an adult fantasy romance by Sarah J. Maas, obviously. And it follows Bryce Quinlan, who is half human, half fae, and Hunt Athalar, who is a fallen angel. And he's now enslaved and works for the city, and there's like a string of murders that are happening, and so Bryce and Hunt have to like team up to solve the murders, basically, and then obviously they fall in love. But I really ended up enjoying this, but I'm not as words. I am the type of person who's very cautious about adult fantasy, or at least I always have been. I've always enjoyed like children's fantasy, middle grade fantasy, young adult fantasy to an extent, but adult fantasy kind of freaked me out just because, like, look how many freaking pages this book is. And like, I don't know. I just never thought it would be my thing. However, I really enjoyed this, and I do plan on continuing the series, and now I'm interested in like looking into some of Brandon Sanderson's fantasy works, or Patrick Rothfuss's like Kingkiller Chronicle is really interesting to me now. So it's like opened my eyes to a lot of different possibilities. The next prompt is Anastasia, Journey to the Past. Name a book that features flashbacks or developed backstories. And for this, I did Nosferatu by Joe Hill. I'm clearly in the middle of this. I'm about 180 pages in. This is like a 700-page book, 600 something? Yeah, almost 700 pages. It's a chunker. It's a thriller. And I thought this was supposed to be a Dracula retelling. And from what I understand, it's not exactly a retelling, but there's some comparisons to Dracula in there. And it starts off following a girl named Vic McQueen who has a bike that she can ride onto this bridge that doesn't exist as a little girl, and she's able to find things. And there's this guy, Charlie Manx, who kidnaps children in his Rolls Royce and is able to do a similar thing where he can like move into, it's called something that oh man. I can't even remember what it's called, but it's like a special term for what they can do, but they can go to places that don't actually exist, basically. And his is called Christmas Land, Charlie Manx's, but kids never get away with him. And what it says on the back is that Vic is the only child who ever escapes him. And I just got to that part, 180 pages in. And now he has her son in like the present day. But this is all about backstory, and it's so thorough. I mean, obviously I haven't gotten to the full part of the story yet, but I almost feel like it could have been separate books, but maybe not. I'm really, really enjoying this though. And that'll be in my wrap up this month because I am planning on finishing it in July. The next prompt is Be More Chill, and it's Michael in the bathroom. The prompt is, if you were escaping a party by hiding in a bathroom, what book would you take with you? And for this, I decided I would have to pick an ebook because there's not a book that I own that I want to read, or a book that I've read that I want to reread at a party necessarily. So I just picked the next book that I have as an ebook, and I chose The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker, which from what I understand, it's a historical fantasy set in ancient Greece, and it follows the women who weren't like at the forefront of the Trojan War, but they were like the slave girls, the wives left behind, and I don't know if it has any magic to do with that or if it's just considered fantasy because it talks about like Achilles and Greek gods. But that sounds really interesting to me. I'm very interested in untold stories, which that sounds lame to say out loud. I don't know how to articulate what I mean, but I'm very interested in like the people who were left behind. I don't know. If that makes sense, let me know. If you've read that, let me know down below if you liked it or how you felt about it. The next one is 6, which I believe is about the 6 ex-wives of Henry VIII. And the song is called Ex-Wives, and it says, name a book that is a twist or retelling of a well-known story. For this, I chose Eligible by Curtis Sittenfeld. Yes. And this was part of a group of authors all wrote books based on Jane Austen's works. This is a Pride and Prejudice retelling. I rented it from the library a few years ago, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's Pride and Prejudice, but it's set in The Bachelor almost. So it's about Jane going on The Bachelor, and there's, the show's called Eligible, but it's The Bachelor and Mr. Bingley or Dr. Bingley, whatever, is the Bachelor on the show. And then it just follows Pride and Prejudice from that angle, so it's a little bit more focused on Jane and Bingley and less on Darcy and Elizabeth. I'm the worst at describing books that I read a couple years ago, especially because I didn't start making reviews of books until 2019. So anything that I read before that, anything I remember from it isn't like as coherent. I didn't read things to like review them and analyze them. I read them for fun, which I still do kind of, but let me know if that's a problem that you have. Do you have a problem like forgetting things about books that you read a while ago if you don't like write your thoughts down and annotate and stuff? Because I do. But anyways, all that to say, that is a really cute book if you are looking for something like that. It came out I don't know when it came out. I got it from the library a few years ago. The next one is The Last 5 Years, which is one of my favorite musicals, and the song is Still Hurting. So the prompt is, what book hurt you and has stuck with you since? For this, I chose All the Pretty Horses by Cormac McCarthy. When I was in high school, I took AP English my senior year, and he gave us a list of it was 6 books, and we had to pick 2 of them, I think, to read. But I remember I read this in Montana 1948. I was the only person in my class who read this, so I had to do my discussion group by myself, basically. But it's about this guy who is a cowboy. I don't remember exactly when it's set. It's called a modern day Western, but I'm pretty sure it was set a long, long time ago. It doesn't really matter. Who goes down to Mexico to work on a ranch, and he meets the rancher's daughter, who is she's wealthier, so she's been going to school in Spain with her extended family, and she's back for the summer or for whatever the reason, and they sort of fall in love or have this relationship. And there's a line in here where she says, I'm sure I highlighted it. Can I find it though? That would be insane. I might have found it. Yeah. So the girl who falls in love with Alejandra says, she's talking about her dad here. So she has this relationship with him, and then she and her dad have a falling out over it. And she says, I didn't know that he would stop loving me. I didn't know he could. And now I know. And that really hurt my feelings. And I still think about it. Anyways, if you haven't read this, please read it. It's so good. I want to reread it. The next prompt is from Come From Away, and the song is Me in the Sky. It says, pick a book that features your dream job, real or fantastical. And for this, I said middle game. And it's not really my dream job per se. I just think alchemy is so interesting, and I don't want to create somebody who can like take over the world or whatever, but I loved the concept of specifically like Erin being order and her twin being chaos. Like, I just think that's really interesting. Basically, this is a really crappy answer to this question, I'm realizing now that I'm saying it out loud, but I think I just wanted to talk about middle game. It's so good. If you haven't read middle game, it's so good. It's very weird, but like peak. I just think it's really interesting that Erin gets to like follow them around, relive things with them. I don't know. What am I even saying? I don't even know what I'm talking about. That's not a very good answer for that. I tried. The next prompt is Newsies, and it's the song Santa Fe. Newsies is another one of my favorite musicals. I loved the Disney movie back in the day with Christian Bale. I've said it before and I'll say it again. My ideal man is Christian Bale in 2002. So Google it. And it's, what fictional place would you love to visit? And I know we're not really talking about it right now because we are mad at the author, but I have always said Hogwarts for stuff like this. I've always wanted to be accepted to Hogwarts in the Wizarding School. And I know it's lame and like not that interesting because it's basically the human world, but you can do magic. But like, that's ideal, I think. I always wanted to go to a magical school. And that's the only one that I can think of off the top of my head. So that's what I'm going with. But yes, I won't dwell on it any longer. The next prompt is from the musical Waitress, and it's When He Sees Me. This is another one of my favorite musicals because I love Sarah Bareilles, and I'm trash for Sarah Bareilles. Anyways, and the prompt is, what book did you fall in love with the second you saw the cover? I haven't even read this yet. It's What Should Be Wild by Julia Fine. I hauled this year. I'll link my book haul from 2020 up there. But this is just like, it was a combination of the title and the cover. Because, like, it was, like, everything about it. And the quote on the cover says, an intricately contrived feminist fantasy that explores the urges of the body, the nature of desire, and the power of the spirit. Everything about this just called out to me, so I bought it. And now I have it in my house, and I haven't read it yet. And it's been months. I think I bought that in April. I also talked about this in my book haul. I don't like to have books on my shelves that I haven't read. I like to keep my physical owned TBR to a bare minimum because it kind of stresses me out to have too much stuff. So I don't mind having a long TBR list of books that I want to read on my computer that I can check out from the library or get as an ebook or borrow or something. But just owning books that I haven't read yet kind of makes me anxious, which is weird, but it is what it is. The next prompt is from Dear Evan Hansen, the song Disappear, and it says, hype an underrated backlist book. I picked The House of Broken Angels by Luis Alberto Urrea. I don't know how underhyped this is, but it's a very compelling like family drama about a Mexican-American family living in Southern California. And just, it's not quite a slice of life book, but when I read it, it almost felt like one. And it kickstarts with an event and like sees it through. But it's just about like the struggle and strife that families go through. And I think I've said in several wrap-ups that I don't like a family drama, but I loved that book. So I don't know what exactly it is about it that was different, and it's been a while since I've read it. I would highly recommend that if you're into contemporaries, if you want to learn more about immigrant life in America. I feel like it's a very solid representation of that, especially Latinx immigrants in the United States. Obviously not from lived experience, but from friends and family members. That's pretty solid. The last, I hate when people say the last and final, but I almost do it almost every time that I have to say the last or final. So the final prompt is from Legally Blonde, and it's What You Want is the song. And the question is, what do you want to see more of in books? For me, I want to see more like female covens or more like matriarchies in both contemporaries and fantasies. I just want to see more like all-female casts, like banding together and female-female friendships, because that's something, I don't even know if that's really underrepresented anymore, but I feel like I crave that out of books. Both in real life and in books, in media, women are like often pitted against each other, and I think it's so compelling to read a story about women who actually uplift each other and work together and are like strong and love each other and care about each other. And I don't mean female romance, although I'm obviously not opposed to that, but like that's not the category that I'm talking about. I'm talking about like female friendships, strong female bonds in like a familial sense. So that's what I would like to see more of. If you have recommendations that feature that, please let me know in any genre. And the bonus is to pick your favorite musical and recommend a book based on that. So for this, I handpicked a prompt that I felt like could apply to my favorite book of all time, which is just so typically me. So I chose Avenue Q, which is on brand, my favorite musical. My dream role, if you were wondering, which no one cares, is to be Kate Monster from Avenue Q. The prompt that I came up with was for the song There's a Fine, Fine Line, which is Kate Monster's big song. I chose, for my prompt, a book where a relationship doesn't work out and the characters are better for it. And I chose, and there are so many books where this could apply, but I chose A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. This is a classic. I won't give away the ending, even though if you've seen, I can't remember which year the movie came out, but it's like, I want to say the more recent movie spoils the ending at the very beginning, which like, don't watch that movie if you haven't read this book. Do not. Do not do it. Makes me so upset. But this is my favorite book of all time. It's a historical fiction, obviously, set in the French Revolution, and it's between England and France. Or the characters are moved between England and France. There's a lot of like entanglement that happens. It's just so heartbreaking, so good. I reread this book all the time. I'm probably going to reread it soon. It's annotated to hell and back from freshman year of high school. Both me and my brother had to read this, and so my brother wrote, you probably can't even see it on there, but it says, Bill is awesome. Because you had to write your name on the book to show that you weren't borrowing it from someone else, which, by the way, is some classist bullshit. To be like, you have to purchase this book and you have to write your name on it, because if you don't write your name on it, then it's not your copy because you have to write in your book. Like, first of all, get fucked. It was public school. I don't know. I got a lot of opinions on stuff like that. And I think that it was so that you wouldn't use your friend's annotations, but there should have been an option to get a library book and annotate it that way, or the school should have provided the books. And that's all I really have to say about that. But, so I had to write my name on it too. So I did. There you go. But that is this tag. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do it. If you do, tag me in it so I can see it. Don't forget to check out Kelsey and Maddie's channel. They will be linked down below. And let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and how you felt about them. Let me know your answers to this if you don't want to film your own video. And let me know what your favorite musical is, because I would love to know. With that, that's going to be it for today's video, and I will see you on Thursday.